Okay, y'all, here's another slave letter from none other than Frederick Douglass. I know y'all know that name. Let me set it up. Gotta put my glasses on. Apologize for the glare, but I'm blind, y'all. I'm blind. Yeah, it's bad. Oh well. This is entitled, I Took Nothing But What Belonged to Me. And this is again by Frederick Douglass, and this is in 1848. I'll do the setup. 10 years after escaping slavery, famed abolitionist, orator, and activist Frederick Douglass published an open letter to his former enslaver, Thomas Auld, that's A-U-L-D, in the abolitionist newspaper that Douglass founded, the North Star. What I'm about to read is an excerpt of the full 3,400-word letter. So here we go. I have often thought I should like to explain to you the grounds upon which I have justified myself in running away from you. I am almost ashamed to do so now, for by this time you may have discovered them yourself. I will, however, glance at them. When yet but a child, about 6 years old, I imbibed the determination to run away. The very first mental effort that I now remember on my part was an attempt to solve the mystery, why am I a slave? And with this question, my youthful mind was troubled for many days, pressing upon me more heavily at times than others. When I saw the slave driver whip a slave woman, cut the blood out of her neck, and heard her piteous cries, I went away into the corner of the fence, wept, and pondered over the mystery. I had, through some medium, I know not what, got some idea of God, the creator of all mankind, the black and the white, and that he had made the blacks to serve the whites as slaves. How could he do this and be good? I could not tell. I was not satisfied with this theory, which made God responsible for slavery, for it pained me greatly, and I had wept over it long and often. At one time, your first wife, Mrs. Lucretia, heard me sighing and saw me shedding tears, and asked of me the matter, but I was afraid to tell her. I was puzzled with this question, till one night, sitting in the kitchen, I heard some of the old slaves talking of their parents having been stolen from Africa by white men and were sold here as slaves. The whole mystery was solved at once. Very soon after this, my Aunt Jenny and Uncle Noah ran away, and the great noise made about it by your father-in-law made me, for the first time, acquainted with the fact that there were free states as well as slave states. From that time on, I resolved that I would someday run away. The morality of the act I dispose of as follows. I am myself, you are yourself. We are two distinct persons, equal persons. Where you are, I am. You are a man, and so am I. God created both and made us separate beings. I am not by nature bond to you or you to me. Nature does not make your existence depend upon me or mine to depend upon yours. I cannot walk upon your legs or you upon mine. I cannot breathe for you or you for me. I must breathe for myself and you for yourself. We are distinct persons and are each equally provided with faculties necessary to our individual existence. In leaving you, I took nothing but what belonged to me, and in no way lessened your means for obtaining an honest living. Your faculties remained yours, and mine became useful to their rightful owner. I therefore see no wrong in any part of the transaction. It is true, I went out secretly, but that was more your fault than mine. Had I let you into the secret, you would have defeated the enterprise entirely. But for this, I should have been really glad to have made you acquainted with my intentions to leave. You may perhaps want to know how I like my present condition. I am free to say I greatly prefer it to that which I occupied in Maryland. I am, however, by no means prejudiced against the state as such. Its geography, climate, fertility, and products are such as to make it a very desirable abode for any man. And but for the existence of slavery there, It is not impossible that I might again take up my abode in that state. It is not that I love Maryland less, but freedom more. Since I left you, I have had a rich experience. I have occupied stations which I never dreamed of when a slave. 3 out of the 10 years since I left you, I spent as a common laborer on the wharves of New Bedford, Massachusetts. It was there I earned my first free dollar. It was mine. I could spend it as I pleased. I could buy hams or herring with it, without asking any odds of anybody. That was a precious dollar to me. You remember when I used to make $7 or $8 or even $9 a week in Baltimore. You would take every cent of it from me every Saturday night, saying that I belonged to you and my earnings also. I never liked this conduct on your part, to say the best. I thought it a little mean. I would not have served you so, but let that pass. I have an industrious and neat companion and 4 dear children. The oldest, a girl of 9 years, and 3 fine boys. The oldest, 8, the next 6, and the youngest 4 years old. The 3 oldest are now going regularly to school. 2 can read and write, and the other can spell with tolerable correctness words of 2 syllables. Dear fellows, they are all in comfortable beds and are sound asleep, perfectly secure under my own roof. There are no slaveholders here to rend my heart by snatching them from my arms, or blast a mother's dearest hopes by tearing them from her bosom. These dear children are ours, not to work up into rice, sugar, and tobacco, but to watch over, regard, and protect, and to rear them up in the nurture and admonition of the gospel, to train them up in the paths of wisdom and virtue, and, as far as we can, to make them useful to the world and to themselves. Oh, sir, a slaveholder never appears to me so completely an agent of hell as when I think of and look upon my dear children. It is then that my feelings rise above my control. I meant to have said more with respect to my own prosperity and happiness, but thoughts and feelings which this recital has quickened unfits me to proceed further in that direction. The grim horrors of slavery rise in all their ghastly terror before me. The wails of millions pierce my heart and chill my blood. I remember the chain, the gag, the bloody whip, the death-like gloom overshadowing the broken spirit of the fettered bondman, the appalling liability of his being torn away from wife and children and sold like a beast in the market. Say not that this is a picture of fancy. You well know that I wear stripes on my back, inflicted by your direction, and that you, while you were brothers in the same church, caused this right hand, with which I am now penning this letter, to be closely tied to the left, and my person dragged at the pistol's mouth 15 miles from the Bayside to Easton, to be sold like a beast in the market, for the alleged crime of intending to escape from your possession. All this and more you remember and know to be perfectly true, not only of yourself, but of nearly all of the slaveholders around you. At this moment, you are probably the guilty holder of at least 3 of my dear sisters and my only brother in bondage. These you regard as your property. They are recorded on your ledger, or perhaps have been sold to human fleshmongers with a view to filling your own ever-hungry purse. Sir, I desire to know how and where these dear sisters are. Have you sold them, or are they still in your possession? What has become of them? Are they living or dead? And my dear old grandmother, whom you turned out like a horse to die in the woods, is she still alive? Write and let me know all about them. If my grandmother be still alive, she is of no service to you, for by this time she must be nearly 80 years old, too old to be cared for by one to whom she has ceased to be of service. Send her to me at Rochester, or bring her to Philadelphia, and it shall be the crowning happiness of my life to take care of her in her old age. Oh, she was to me a mother and a father, so far as hard toil for my comfort could make her such. Send me my grandmother, that I may watch over and take care of her in her old age, and my sisters. Let me know all about them. I would write to them and learn all I want to know of them without disturbing you in any way, but that, through your unrighteous conduct, they have been entirely deprived of the power to read and write. You have kept them in utter ignorance and have therefore robbed them of the sweet enjoyments of writing or receiving letters from absent friends and relatives. Your wickedness and cruelty committed in this respect on your fellow creatures are greater than all the stripes you have laid upon my back or theirs. It is an outrage upon the soul, a war upon the immortal spirit, and one for which you must give account at the bar of our common Father and Creator. The responsibility which you have assumed in this regard is truly awful, and how you could stagger under it these many years is marvelous. Your mind must have become darkened, your heart hardened, your conscience seared and petrified, or you would have long since thrown off the accursed load and sought relief at the hands of a sin-forgiving God. I will now bring this letter to a close. You shall hear from me again, unless you let me hear from you. I intend to make use of you as a weapon with which to assail the system of slavery, as a means of concentrating public attention on the system and deepening the horror of trafficking in the souls and bodies of men. I shall make use of you as a means of exposing the character of the American church and clergy, and as a means of bringing this guilty nation, with yourself, to repentance. In doing this, I entertain no malice toward you personally. There is no roof under which you would be more safe than mine. And there is nothing in my house which you might need for your comfort, which I would not readily grant. Indeed, I should esteem it a privilege to set you an example as to how mankind ought to treat each other. I am your fellow man, but not your slave. Now, Douglass met with Auld, his former slave owner, in 1877. They mostly spoke warmly about family members, Auld's wife and Douglass's beloved grandmother, and Auld told Douglass he was right to have escaped bondage. Did you hear that last part? The master told the slave that the slave was right to have escaped slavery. Think about that. Frederick Douglass. Bravo, bravo, bravo.